Join me today to learn all about growing and cooking sweet potatoes. Hi, I'm Melanie from Our House to Homestead. Come along with my family on the journey as we convert our house on the outskirts of Auckland, New Zealand into a homestead where we grow, harvest and cook our own food from scratch. Today is all about the humble sweet potato. They're high in fibre, especially if you leave that skin on. They're high in vitamin C and vitamin A, which are antioxidants which protect our cells from damage and our immune system. And they also have a lot of potassium in them, which is an electrolyte that we need for hydration. They're very versatile. You can cook them in many different ways, and personally I prefer them to normal potatoes. Today I'm going to show you how to propagate sweet potato slips, which are the small shoots that form on top of a sweet potato mother. What happens is we can propagate those in early spring, and then we can take them off and plant them. So those are the new plants that will form new sweet potatoes underneath. Growing sweet potatoes is actually fairly straightforward if you have your bed prepared correctly. You need about a 1 meter wide garden bed and then just really long. And what you do is you mound the soil up so that it's higher in the center going down the garden bed, and that's how we can plant our sweet potato slips in and allow their root development down. The soil needs to obviously have nutrients like compost or sheep pellets, and also add something like sand in there if you don't have sandy soil. This creates a very loose soil and allows the roots to grow down easily. Sweet potatoes need around 3.5 months of frost-free growing time. Previously I've grown them before in another city and there was a danger of frost quite early on, so I didn't get many sweet potato at all. This time in Auckland I'm looking forward to seeing how my season goes and how long I can leave those sweet potato in. If you're in a frost prone area, you just need to make sure that you get them in around the end of springtime so they've got that 3.5 months to grow. So today I'm going to be propagating some kumara or sweet potato shoots or slips, and these shoots can then be taken off and put into a garden down the track so we can grow our own sweet potato. The plan is to put the sweet potatoes in some kind of medium to keep them moist and warm. So I'm going to use pumice, but you could use river stones, it'd be the same thing. What happens is as the sweet potato gets moist and is warm, it grows some shoots or slips. You keep them until they start to form some shoots. Then the plan will be to take the shoots and we can plant those in our future sweet potato garden. You can get the sweet potato slips or shoots from a garden shop, but I really want to have a go this year at growing my own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place them inside a box that can fit them in snugly. I've got 2 here. They're not necessarily the largest sweet potatoes, they're more like a medium size. And inside the box I'm going to pour some growing medium. In this case I'm using pumice. It's really fine. This is quite a wet one as well. You could use river stones if you have them. So the start of spring is the time that you want to do this. It's warm enough for these to propagate, and then we still have time towards the end of spring to plant them moving into summer. I don't want too many gaps because I want it to be nice and moist in there. I have to say that my stones were quite wet to start with, but I am just going to give them a little sprinkle because the box wasn't wet at all. Now all we do is we leave it in a place about 20 degrees Celsius until the shoots start forming, and the next step will be to feed those shoots. I want to take you on a tour of where the sweet potato garden is going to be. Ben isn't too sure about my placement, but he just doesn't understand how good it is yet. Sweet potato need a lot of nutrients, so the plan is to put down quite a bit of compost around the orchard and amongst the trees. It's a massive garden, it's quite luscious and green, and might not be as tidy as some of the other veggie gardens, so I am going to try and put it in the orchard and see how I go. So this is going to be our orchard. As you can see, there's lots of trees in the way right now. Ben is very carefully cutting them all down for me so we can have a bit of sunshine coming in from over here. So you can't see much yet, but if you can imagine, the sunshine comes from this spot all the way through, and all past those trees is going to be orchard.
Today we're going to be looking at the humble kumara or sweet potato and making a cottage pie using some leftover brisket that I've got. To start off with, we need to chop up the sweet potato and get it boiling so that we can make mash. You'll notice that the sweet potato that I've got hasn't had the skin removed. I don't do that because it holds lots of the nutrients. So instead I chop off the ugly bits and I give it a good wash before I chop it up. So we'll place all of these sweet potato pieces into the pot and then cover with water and a little salt to boil. Next we're going to chop up some onions. I'm just going to dice them and essentially I'm going to fry them off and make a gravy that I'll put the brisket into. And to the onions I'm going to add a couple of cloves of garlic.
Lodge cast iron skillet, I'm going to add beef dripping. I collect this when I make my bone broth. Next I'm going to add the onions and the garlic and fry until translucent and soft but not brown. I then add in some salt. I use salt with kelp added in it for extra iodine. Some pepper. And finally I put in some standard white organic flour. This is going to make the base for our gravy. I made fresh beef bone broth here. This is what I'm going to use to make the sauce in the gravy. Add it in gradually and stir so there's no lumps. And when you've got the consistency you're looking for, then you can stop and add in your meat. Because my meat's been pre-cooked, it's literally a matter of stirring it through the gravy to get the flavours through, and then adding more stock to loosen it up. I'm going to give it a rough mash first. I like to put a little bit of butter in my mash, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop that straight into our mash there. I particularly love cheese on top of cottage pie. What I'm going to do is add a little bit inside the actual filling, and then when we put it all together we'll put some on the top as well. Okay, time to assemble. I'm going to pop this in the oven at 200 degrees Celsius and wait for the cheese in the top to go golden brown, and then we're good to go. Hit subscribe to follow along with all of the developments on our house to homestead. I'll be posting more videos on growing, harvesting and cooking our food. Don't miss out. Details for any products and equipment used are in the description below. See you next week, friends.